Okay, I want to make a quick introduction here. This is my very first YouTube video, so because it's my first video, just want to do a quick introduction. Basically, I'm making this video because, I've had a lot of guns over the past couple years, and I've done a lot of work to them, done a lot of modifications, a lot of really cool stuff. Plus, during the process, I've completely stripped, disassembled and reassembled them. Glocks, Sigs, revolvers, you name it. So, and every time I do it, I always wanted to take a video, and just procrastination, or somebody else has already got a pretty good video. Ruger's also I didn't mention, but anyway, so I always find other videos out there. So, I'm not going to make a video if there's already another video out there that's really well done. But anyway, I've noticed that there's not a whole lot of complete disassembly and reassembly videos out there. Of course, for the 1911s, there's tons of stuff out there, but and the Glocks, of course, but not so much for Sig Sauers or revolvers. And I've already completely rebuilt a couple revolvers this year, and I regret not taking a video for it, because I've learned a lot from the from the YouTube gun community, just in terms of looking for different nuances between the different guns, and before I make a decision to purchase a new gun. And by the way, I've bought, sold, and or traded about 20 to 30 guns just over the past 12 months, and I'm not a shop or anything like that. I'm just a regular hobbyist or enthusiast, whatever you want to say. But anyway, so this video is my attempt to give back. I feel that I should have done it a few times before, and I didn't. As a matter of fact, just last month I completely stripped down my 226 and put a different trigger on it. And but I stripped it down because I wanted to clean everything and put it back together, and also hone the trigger on it a little bit, polish some of the internal parts, made it a little bit more smoother. Anyway, funny thing is, I just sold that 226 last week. So anyway, without any further ado here, this is going to be a complete disassembly and reassembly of this 229. So again, I'm a one-man situation here, so I'm going to try and work with the camera and do the best I can. Hopefully the lighting's good for you guys. But basically, a 229 and a 226 are almost identical in terms of disassembling and reassembling. As a matter of fact, most of the internal parts are the same for 226 or 229s. Anybody who's ever had to replace any of the parts on their 226 or 229 will notice that everything's labeled for the 226 or the 229. And all of the Sig P series more or less are made the same, but again, particularly the 226 and the 229 is actually the identical parts. Not much of a difference other than shorter grip and shorter lengthwise. Okay, so everything I'm about to show you now, if you have a 226, you can do the same exact thing. You can apply the same exact process, and again, it's the same exact thing. So this is the same whether you have a 226 or a 229. It's going to be identical. Okay, this just happens to be a 229, and what this is it's a 229 SCT model. Pretty cool. Came with factory 17 round Mekar mags, which I don't have in the background right now. I just have this 15 round mag. It sits flush, so it's better to carry it with. And I also added these ergo grips, so that's pretty cool too. You can see how they come on and come off. I don't know if there's too many videos online about how to actually install or take off these Sig ergo grips, but I'll show you how to do that in the process. And that's about it. Other than that, it's factory. I put the new grips because for some reason the SCT models do not come with the ergo grips, and so I went ahead and put those on. Alright, and actually, and the purpose of this today, I don't know if I said it yet or not, is I'm going to be putting a DAC trigger on this. So I just ordered a DAC trigger, and I'm going to install that. So right now it has the Srt Trigger, which I love. The Srt Trigger is a really phenomenal trigger. But I would like to start, making things more the same. So I also like Glocks, and I shoot and I carry Glocks a lot too. So I believe the DAC trigger is going to be a lot like the way a Glock works. So we're going to find out, and I'll give you a range report after that also. But anyway, in any event, this is what we're here for today. So first thing we're going to do is safety check it. Obviously, you can see there's no magazine in it, and nothing inside the chamber. And of course, I safety checked it before we even started. Alright, so that's done. Now I'm just going to go ahead and take off the slide. I'm not going to get too much into the field stripping part. I assume if you're watching this video, you're familiar with field stripping a SIG. I'm just going to move the ammo and the clips to a completely different area, so we have no ammo or anything here. Okay, so we took the slide off, and the slide I'm just going to put to the side here. We're not really going to need that at this moment. Now, to get these ergo grips off, there's a trick to it. They can be a pain in the butt, and it took me a while to figure out the best way to take these on and off, because if you follow the simple 3 steps that the factory puts in, is well, they don't give you enough information. It's a little bit difficult, but basically what I do is, if you can see this, okay, see that? They give you this little key here, by the way. Okay, so you have this key from the factory that goes in like that, and you just kind of pry it up a little. See that? Okay, so you push that, and the ergo grip just pops up a little. Now, it's not quite as easy as it looks on this video. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt. Okay, but what I do is, let me just find my little thing here that I use. Anything soft that you can put in there. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to use a Q-tip here. Okay, just a regular Q-tip, but anything you can get under there. You can use a screwdriver, but I don't want to take a chance in scratching the finish, so I just go like this, and again, I'm trying to work with the camera here, so I want to try to make sure that I stay within the camera angle when I do this, so that you guys can see it. So, okay, so there you see, all I really did is just shove a Q-tip in there. Okay, just a little bit. Maybe like a wedge-shaped piece of plastic would work a little bit easier. Screwdriver or anything, but I like to use this. It doesn't scratch. And then we're going to flip it over, stick this key in, and we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, sorry if the camera's focusing in and out here. Again, this is my first video, so I just kind of have the camera propped up on a holster. Actually, my DeSantis leather Glock holster is actually what's holding the camera right now, so I'll do my best here to keep this. So now we're just going to pop up this side, okay, the same way I did the other side. Alright, now as you can see, it was pretty simple. When I put the key in this side and pushed up on it, I used my finger at the same time and slid it back. Now you just want to be careful, especially when let me see where the sweet spot is on this camera here. Okay, right there. You want to be careful, especially when you're installing it, that you don't want to knock either the trigger spring off or the decocking spring if it's a double action, single action trigger. Okay, so now you have your field stripped and you have your ergo grips, or of course if you're using the regular grips. Put that down for a second. Okay, of course if you have your Sig Sauer standard factory grips, or hoe grips or something, it's just as simple as taking those off. The Sig Sauer tool, if you haven't had one yet, if you're going to own SIGs, especially the P series, if you love them and you're going to own them and you're going to be doing your own work to them, it's not much, but it's everything you need for a SIG. It really is. This is a sweet little multi-tool, and of course you can use it for a lot of stuff, but it fits all the nooks and crannies of the P series really perfectly. Just everything you need here. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is, for me, this is just my method. First thing you ought to do is take the decocker off, and now that I'm going to be putting the DAC in, which we're not going to need that anyway. So the decocker is pretty simple. Let me just check the camera here. Okay, so you just pop this spring out, okay, from this side. See that? So let me give you a really good shot of that. This spring was in this hole, alright, and then we just popped it right out of there. Now to get it back in again, I should have put this back together. Let me get organized here. but they have this handy little, nice little attachment here, which is for putting springs back on, and it works beautiful. So what you do is you just take this, and it's already got the groove on it, okay, and then the groove fits right there. See that? You probably can't see it on the camera. I'm taking an HD video here. I'm not, yeah, I guess you can probably see that. This screwdriver tip has a little groove in it, and do you see how easily I was able to just put that spring right back in that hole? Doing it without this little attachment is a pain in the butt. It's not that it can't be done. I did it for a long time without this little tool, but I mean, as you can see there, I just took it out again. See that? And now watch again how easy to put back in. So great little tool. Anyway, we'll pop that back out. SIGs are real easy to work on. Bear with me again, guys. This is my first video, so if I'm talking too much, I promise if I make future videos I won't talk as much. By the way, if you're the kind of guy who doesn't even change your tire, you know, if you need to call up AAA or call a tow truck if you get a flat tire, you obviously don't want to be doing any of this. It's simple, but you know, some people are mechanically inclined, some people aren't. You don't have to be a genius, you don't have to be a super mechanic or anything like that. But you know, if you're the kind of guy that changes his own tire, changes his own oil, this is just a side note. You know, sorry again for going on and on, but it's important to understand. You know, 'cause I don't want somebody to take their gun apart and not be able to put it back together. You know, and you know, I don't want that to happen. Send it back to SIG or have to go to Pistol Smith or something. But anyway, you know, as long as you have any kind of a mechanical ability, I mean, if you can put a puzzle together, you can pretty much do this. Really, and you know, that's a good way to look at it. It's a good analogy. Taking guns apart and putting them back together is just like taking a puzzle apart. So if you never liked jigsaw puzzles as a kid, you probably don't want to mess with your gun. But other than that, it's pretty simple. Okay, so we pop that back off. So we took off the spring. This little piece that fell out, this is the back plate to the decocker, so that just goes on the inside. I'm going to show you that again real quick because we're not going to be putting this back on. Again, I bought the DAC trigger and I'm going to be installing it, so with the DAC trigger, which is double action only, you don't need a decocker. So for the sake of you guys who may want to just take your double action, single action, standard trigger gun apart and put it back together, I want to show you. Really, the easiest way to do it is the first thing you want to do is put this little piece back in. I'll just show you real quick. Again, that's just the back plate. You know, that goes in like this, but on the inside of the gun. But I want to show you the way it sits. Okay, so it sits just like that, but on the inside of the gun. And what I do is, see the way my finger just kind of goes right under that hole? That's all you got to do. Okay, just kind of get that to pop right in there like so. Sometimes it's a pain in the butt, but there it is anyway, right in. I actually have to slide it a little bit to get it to sit properly. Sorry if I'm going on and off the camera. I'm trying my best with the angle of where the camera's at. Okay, so there, that's back in. That's your hardest part with taking a decocker on and off, is this little back plate that I just showed you. So now it's, you know, what I did is I put my finger on the inside with the back plate on it, got it back through that hole, put your decocker back over top of it like so. Okay. And put your spring back in it. And then again, this is where the spring tool comes back in. This is your decocker's three pieces. You got the decocker handle, lever, you've got the spring, and you've got the back plate. Okay, and again, this little tool's pretty good. There it is, it's in. Okay, so see that? Cock it, decock it. Alright guys, so that's how easy it is. Alright. Like I said, this is almost as easy as a Glock. Believe it or not, we're almost there. Here's the trigger bar and the trigger bar spring. I want to just rip right into this, guys. So you guys who have already done this before, obviously I don't know why you'd be watching it if you already did it before. or if you're a Sig armor or something like that, there's really no reason to be watching this. Because I can rip right through this, but the reason why I'm taking my time is for, anybody out there who's never taken a Sig apart before. I really want to make sure that, I'm taking my time and that you guys can see clearly what I'm doing. Because it is a little nerve-wracking. You take your gun apart and then you look down and you see a million pieces and you forget how you put it back together. So anyway, we're going to pop this spring off right here. And that comes right out. That's your trigger bar spring. I'm just going to leave everything here. I'll keep it out there. I know it'd be good if I had a little dish. A lot of guys when they're taking their gun apart, they have a little dish and put all the parts in. And nothing wrong with that, but I'm just going to keep everything right here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take out this centerpiece, the takedown lever, which you just want to kind of like a 1911 really. You just push there and then pull this, and it comes right out. Now, to put the DAC on, you don't need to remove any of this. I just figured since I'm putting the DAC on, I would do a little video here of how to completely disassemble and reassemble a Sig P229 or 226, because I'm taking it apart anyway. I'm taking most of it apart for the DAC. And actually, you know what? Sorry about that, but I would have to take this apart anyway for the DAC, because you have to get to the trigger to put in the new trigger bar, which I believe you would have to take that apart anyway. Okay, so there's your, forgive me, I forget the name exactly, but there's your, let me make sure I'm on camera here, center block. Okay. And this little spring, which just fell out as well, is for the that's for the slide lock. Okay, so when we put this back together, this spring is going to go right in here like that, and then that's just what pushes pressure on the slide lock to keep it down until the magazine pushes it back up. Alright, so in that little move there, 3 pieces again. Okay, you got the takedown lever came out, you got the spring, and you also have the center block. I'm going to put those aside. Alright, now we're getting somewhere. Okay, same screwdriver tip on my Sig tool here I can use for the trigger. So we're just going to push that right through. Okay, pull that out, put that aside, and now you'll see, again, I'm just going to take my time here and walk you guys through this. You guys who work on SIGs regularly are probably falling asleep right now, but just want to make sure I'm taking my time for, I want to make sure anybody who hasn't done this will be able to go back and rewind. Okay, so see the trigger's just kind of hanging loose here. Alright, so turn it upside down, do whatever you want to do, but that's the, I should have showed you that when we take the center block out and the pin for the trigger there, the pin for the trigger is what holds the slide lock and slide release lever in. Okay, so when you take the trigger pin out, this is going to come out too. So we'll put that aside, and we're going to try and get this out here. Let me make sure I'm on camera. Right there. Okay, so what we're doing is we're going to take out the trigger just like that. See? Just like that. It goes in like that and comes out like that. My head is kind of at a weird angle because I'm trying to look at the back of the camera to make sure that everything I'm doing is on camera. So I'm really doing everything here at a weird angle. So if you see, if it doesn't look smooth, it's just that's the reason. My eyes aren't directly over top of it like it would be. Anyway, so that's that. Your trigger just comes off of here. Now this is one of the parts we're going to be replacing to install the new DAC trigger. This is the trigger bar, and we're going to be replacing that. Okay. Now the hammer and hammer spring. Okay. First, what we're going to do is take out the sear. So see this here? That's the sear in there, and the sear spring. Let me just get my barrel light here. See, maybe you can get a better look at it. Hopefully this is focusing in well. Okay. That's your sear. Make sure we got a good focus. Alright, there's your sear spring, little spring, and that's your sear. So, first thing you want to do, again, here you go. Love my little spring tool. We're just going to pop this. See, make sure you have a good shot of this. We're going to pop the spring off of the little retainer. Okay, so if you can see, there's a little retainer pin right there. That's a retainer pin for this spring. So all we're doing is just sliding that spring right off of that retainer pin. Okay, and then you also have your safety lever here. See that? Now the safety lever, of course, you know, or you should know, is the lever that when you pull the trigger and the trigger bar, when you pull the trigger bar pulls this safety lever and pushes up this part of the slide right there. Okay, and that's your setup right there that allows the firing pin to go. So without that being depressed, the firing pin won't go. So when you pull the trigger, it pushes this safety lever up, which pushes on that right there, and that's what allows your firing pin to go. Okay. Okay, just had to pause that for a minute. My son just came in and had to tell me something. Okay, so we just took the trigger out, and now we're working on the sear here. Okay, so now that we've released that little spring, now we're going to push the sear pin through. So let me just grab my punch here. 1 second. Guys, I apologize for the long video again. You know, I know a lot of people are, you know, I've seen like a lot of the Glock videos and everything. I mean, people are doing a 10-minute video where they're completely disassembling a gun and reassembling it. So I apologize for the length of the video here, and I'll make my future videos. If you guys have any questions or you want me to make future videos of other stuff, I will make my future videos a lot more faster. Again, it's just my first video, so I wanted to really make sure I explained everything properly. And I just want to make sure you're able to get your gun apart and back together. You know, I don't want to rush through it and then maybe you didn't see something. So that's it. This is more of an instructional kind of thing, I guess you can look at it as. Okay, so I'll try to edit it also. You know, I'll check out the YouTube editing and maybe try to shorten it up, but whatever, man, it is what it is. Okay, I'm making this for people who need it. So if you need it and you appreciate it, let me know. And if you didn't need it and didn't appreciate it, then you probably left after the first couple minutes anyway. Alright, so now I got my punches here, which anytime you're working on your guns, it's always good to have your punches around anyway. And this pin right here for the sear just slides right through, especially once you let go of that pressure of that little spring. There's really nothing holding that. Let me just give you a heads up. If it feels hard to push, especially if it's a brand new gun or if it's an older gun that you've never taken apart before and cleaned and oiled, if it feels real hard to push, it's only because of that reason, because maybe it's a brand new gun, so everything's still real tight, or it's an older gun that's never been cleaned and you know, never been properly cared for, so you might have a little oxidation or binding. But don't worry if it feels tight. Just take something, you know, take a little hammer and very carefully tap it a little bit if it doesn't slide. Of course mine slides through real easily because I just had this gun apart not that long ago, cleaned it out, re-oiled everything. So just keep that in mind. If it's a little, you want to give it a little tap if you have to. But anyway, there we go. Okay, and that little jingle you just heard was the safety lever and the sear. Okay, so there's the safety lever, which just fell out. That was what we just talked about, which pushes up on that button on the slide. The sear fell out. Okay, remember that was the sear pin that we took out, so of course that. And the sear, here's a little spring. Okay, that's the little spring, which basically just applies pressure on the sear, allows it to reset. Otherwise, without this little spring, the sear would just be kind of just floating there. Okay, so that's your sear. And then just to show you what it looks like when it was together, it would have looked like this. Okay. Alright. So that sits in there like that. Perfectly like that. And then your pin obviously goes right through it. So I'm doing this so that you see, to me this is what would be helpful. This is the Srt trigger on here, by the way. So if you have a standard double action, single action trigger, you'll notice that the safety lever is slightly different and the sear is slightly different. You don't really notice on the sear that much. Well, I guess you do. It has this little bump there. Okay, so that's the SRT. Alright guys, almost done with the disassemble. We are down to nothing more than the hammer. Okay, easiest thing to do is take out the hammer spring first. Okay, you know, it's funny, pretty much this entire Sig you could take apart. Sig, you know, they got some nice little tools on here, but this entire deal you could take apart with mostly just this one. You know, the same tip I've been using, which is a little indented for the spring. You can pretty much use that for everything, because what I'm going to do now. But anyway, we're down to the hammer. Alright, so with the hammer, I'm going to take my little screwdriver tip. You don't need this Sig. I know I keep pushing this Sig Sauer tool here. Obviously, you don't need a Sig Sauer tool. You can use any kind of little screwdriver, and you don't need this little indent to work with these springs. You know, I took them apart many times with just my fingers. If you have a little screwdriver like this that's about that size, you can cut your own indent into it as well. You know, you can just use a real thin file and actually file your own little indent. But for $30, it's just a decent tool to have, and if you're going to have SIGs, you might as well have the SIG tool. You know. So anyway, what I'm going to do, there's a lot of ways you can take this seating off. I find this to be the easiest way. Okay, I just pop this in, this or again any screwdriver. Now anytime you're working with these springs, I should have said this before, just careful which direction you're pointing, because man, I'm sure you guys already know, when you take these things apart, especially the little springs, man, I hate those little springs, because when they fly, they take forever to find, if you find them at all. But these springs do tend to go flying, so either cup your hand around it. I'm just going to show you what I'm doing here. But you want to cup your hand around it when you do it, or point it in a direction where if the spring goes flying, it'll be easy to find. Obviously, you don't want to point it at your face or anything. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this on camera. I'm just going to push it up. You see that? I'll do everything in steps here. How about that? Push it up. Can you see that? It's going up. Okay. So once you take the pressure off of the frame here where it's being held on, then your next move is to just slowly lever it right out. Okay, so I'm going to do that like this. Okay, just like that. Pretty simple. See the way that goes on? Simple. Alright, let me just reorganize my stuff here. Alright, so there's all that goes together. What I like to do is just put things in groups. I don't know if you can see everything here or not, but you know, I like to keep all the trigger stuff in one group. You know, different parts of the frame together, just so that it's easier to work with. Alright, there's my trigger. This is the old hammer spring bar. I'm going to put that over there just to get that out of my way. Here's that. Okay. Alright, what the heck was that? What just fell out? I should have showed you this when we took the sear out, by the way. That's just the ejector. Okay? That's the ejector, which fell out because the pin that holds the sear spring on is also the pin that holds that on. So let me just show you again for those of you who have never done this before, so that you don't get lost here. Okay, that's where the ejector sits. That's what pushes the shell out, and that just kind of gets held together with the sear assembly. So it actually goes in with the sear. I should have took that out and showed you when I had the sear, but anyway, that I'll show you that one on the reassembly. Alright, so that just comes out like that. Nothing else holds that in. And we're down to the hammer. Okay, that's it. I'm just going to go back to my punch. Okay, and we're going to punch the hammer right out. That's it. Okay. Alright, there's your 229, brand new. I bought this gun in December, by the way. It's February right now. So here's a gun that's about 2 months old. And there you go. We got it completely disassembled. See, the camera's not focusing great here. So there we go. Okay. I'm using my phone, by the way. It takes HD video, so it's pretty decent. But you know, if it's a little bit slow sometimes, it's just it's because it's a phone. It's not a regular camera. All right. Two more things technically is this right here. Okay. This is the magazine button. All right. I'm not going to take this out. I'll show you how to do it. And if anybody wants to reverse their magazine button, drop me a message or comment on the video, and I will make just a quick little separate video at a different time on exactly. I'll just walk you through it. I'll take it out and reverse it and show you how to do that. I'm not going to do it now just to save some time here. But just I want to show you how to do it. Very easy. Okay, let me make sure we have a good view here. Okay, see this little, you'll see in the front of the magazine release button, you'll see that little, let me see if I have a smaller punch here that I can point with. Where it is. I'm sure you see it on the video. I can see it on this end, so I'm sure you can. But you see that right there? You're going to take something real small. Like, for example, this right here. Okay, you're going to take something real small like this. Or actually, you know what am I talking about? Wow, back to the handy dandy Sig tool. Flip the Sig tool around. Actually, it's right on this side. So on the opposite side of our tool, part of it that we've been using this whole video, is this little tiny, you wonder, what the heck is that little tiny thing for? Voila. That is what pushes in here. Okay? So to remove the magazine release button and put it on the other side, you just simply take this or anything else. If you don't have the Sig tool, again, you can use something like this. This is like a dental pick, almost. It's a tool, like an auger kind of tool. I'm sorry, not an auger, a pick. Okay? So you can use a pick or you can use this. And then you're just gonna, I'll just show you real quick. You push this button in like this. Okay? And when you push that button in, the whole thing will just come right out. Okay, that's just a catch. All that little button is right there is a catch. Okay, it's a catch that catches it onto the frame and doesn't allow it to move past that point. Once you push that in, okay, here's a pick. That'll come right out. Alright, there's a couple little tiny springs in there. Just be careful. Okay, be real careful when you take this out, because they're real little tiny springs. One of them is on the back plate. That's the reason why it bounces back on you. And the other one is behind this little catch right here that we're talking about. That's what allows it to, obviously, when I push on it like this, it pushes back. Okay, so there's a tiny spring going lateral, and there's a tiny spring here in line. Okay, so those two springs, this button and this back plate. To get the back plate off, you can just go back to this side and use that little spring catch or anything really. And this back plate, see the way that moves? Oh, sorry, was off the camera there. Okay, see this back plate? Okay, now when you go like this, that back plate moves. I'm only going to do it a little bit just to illustrate to you. Now, do you see how we have a little space right there in between the edge of the frame and the back plate? Now watch, I'll close that up when I push it. Okay? Alright, we're going to leave it on today just because I just don't feel like messing with it. Alright, this is nothing. It's like a potato chip. Alright, barely weighs anything. Okay. Now, what's the reason why I did all this?